Redditors with former/currently controlling significant others. What was their most ridiculous demand/rules? I was engaged to a man who had to approve each meal, and I wasn't allowed to eat if he wasn't present. He bought my clothes and he always bought them 2 sizes too small, so I felt pressured to fit into them. I left him for a chef. My ex told me I wasn't allowed to look at other women. I don't mean I wasn't allowed to stare at or ogle attractive women, I mean that my field of vision wasn't allowed to contain anyone with a uterus. At work, out and about, sometimes even on the fucking TV. If she decided that I was looking at any woman that wasn't her at any time, I'd be in for it. Right after my first year of college, and she was still in high school, I joined the local volunteer fire department. She told me she did not want me doing CPR on women because I would see their breasts. Had an ex insist that I should quit drinking beer because she didn't like the smell when kissing me. I replied with, "Listen, I've been liking beer for the past 10 years, while I've been liking you for a few months now. Trust me, you don't want to force me to a decision on this." I might have to add that I have an absolute normal drinking behavior and there never was a need for an intervention about alcoholism. She just was an idiot. Just your run-of-the-mill overly attached girlfriend stuff. She demanded to snoop through not only my phone, but my physical items as well. When I wasn't with her, she demanded to know what I was doing and who I was with, and even went as far as to make me take pictures of what I was doing. She even made me give her my Reddit account info to make sure I wasn't private messaging girls on here. What truly takes the cake was when she accused me of cheating because she found a half-eaten Pop-Tart in my car. My friend borrowed my car and had forgotten it. She saw the Pop-Tart and demanded to know who it belonged to, or it was over. TLDR, was accused of cheating because of a rogue Pop-Tart. I had to ask permission to go to the mall by myself. I wasn't allowed to go to the gym as it meant I was making myself look better for other people. I also wasn't allowed to change my password on my laptop as it meant I had something to hide. Boy, that was a fun relationship. I was dating this girl a while ago. I'm also a girl who would get upset when I would wear dresses and skirts because I looked more femme than her, and she didn't want people to think she was the guy in our relationship. A year and a half after our breakup, and I have 15 plus dresses in my closet that I rotate through every day, and she can go fuck herself. I mean, there were a lot from my ex-husband. I was severely, suicidally depressed and he wouldn't make money available for therapy. Even though he was unemployed, he was still in control of the finances. He just kept saying that I wouldn't need therapy if I just listened to him. He also had rules that changed frequently about how many slices of cheese/meat I was allowed to put on my sandwiches. He also used to have a rule that I wasn't allowed to drink coffee because, his words, he didn't want me to be engaged in an addiction that he didn't share with me. Smoking and drinking were okay. He also used to scout friends for me and bring them home and expect me to just be friends with them. And if it didn't click for either of us, he would yell at me for screwing it up. She demanded I never masturbate, ever. This is despite us hardly seeing each other, so the opportunity to ejaculate was minuscule. But hey, I was under the thumb. It did give me my first and only wet dream though. My first girlfriend had a huge body issue about the size of her breasts. They were small and perky, and I liked them. Plus she had an hourglass figure and a wonderful ass. Anyway, she'd freak out if we watched a movie together and there was a busty girl on the screen. She'd often even physically cover my eyes with her hand, even in a movie theater. If we were walking on a street and a busty girl walked past, she'd be staring at me with a death glare to see if I even glanced towards her. Her little sister had a larger bust than her, so she was constantly insanely paranoid that I was secretly lusting after her 14-year-old sister. It was just a trip to the Twilight Zone. This was like 15 years ago, so I don't remember all the details anymore. I think at some point, when we were just flirting and not together yet, she asked what kind of girls I liked, and I said something about curves. Perhaps that somehow triggered her insane uncertainty, but I didn't even mean bust size with it. But, you know, all curves. I explained that to her several times later on, but she was insisting I was lying in an attempt to cover my tracks. In high school, I had a controlling ex-girlfriend who would demand I talk to her for 5 to 7 hours a day, and if I didn't I would get texts from her trying to suicide constantly. Yeah, that was not a fun time. 0 out of 10, would not go through again. He didn't want me talking to any males, even family members. Not even a simple hello with a friendly smile, because this was me flirting them, and if a guy spoke to me first then he was flirting with me. He tried to make me lose my job, because I'm surrounded by men all day, and he didn't like that. He'd basically tell me what to do with my life, changes I needed to make, which were stupid things like me wearing makeup, because I wanted to, but if I tried to tell him he needed to quit drinking, he's an alcoholic, and skipping work because of hangovers from drinking, then I was controlling and needed to stop trying to change who he is, etc. He didn't want me wearing skirts or shirts that showed any cleavage, pretty hard with a large bust, because then men would stare. They wouldn't. I couldn't wear makeup on any normal day, especially if I was going somewhere without him, because I was trying to look good for someone else. No matter how many times I explained makeup as a hobby, and I do it for myself, not to look good for anyone else, not even him. If we weren't together physically, we had to be in constant communication. I was required to call him immediately at the end of my workday and talk to him for the duration of my 1-hour commute home. If I took too long to call, he would call me and berate me. Once I finally got home, I was allowed to take a break for dinner before chatting with him online. Absolutely exhausting. Oh boy, my time to shine. I was required each night to inform her of the time I would be getting up the next morning. If I was not up, she would message all of my friends asking what happened to me. I would occasionally be required to make wake-up calls to her as she didn't like any of her phone alarms. She forbid me from messaging my ex, who had recently came out as lesbian. She thought I would try to get her to come back to me. I was forbidden from voicing my opinion about a co-worker of hers with who she had had a relationship previously. I had to give an explanation and an apology if I ever stopped texting her for some reason. Some examples include brushing my teeth, eating, walking the dog, picking up friends or family members if they needed a ride somewhere, non-stop texter, even when she was driving. I was not allowed to be upset by this, even though I made it clear that an ex-friend killed someone texting and driving. I was not allowed to make plans on the fly. Everything needed to be scheduled days in advance, even with other friends. When I broke up with her, she threatened to have her sister and her sister's boyfriend beat the shit out of me to get me to stay. When I refused to give in and continued to try to break up with her, she threatened to kill herself. I was a university tour guide, a position she tried and failed to get. I wasn't allowed to talk about it. However, when I had to go to mandatory training, or, I dunno, give a tour, I obviously needed to tell her where I was going, since she always needed a damn good reason for me to be anywhere but with her. So I'd have to say, I have something to do. She'd ask what, and I'd say something vague. Course, you know, I couldn't talk about it. So she'd press more, getting very angry and upset I was being vague. So I'd be less vague. She gets more upset. So I admit it was for training. And then she gets furious that I talked about it. She told me I couldn't. Led to quite a lot of shouting and crying in the library. I'm only including a small portion of what I experienced, but it was living hell for the 2 years. I wasn't allowed to talk to my best friend about anything serious. It had to be him I spoke to. I couldn't wear floral print. When I didn't lose 30 kilograms, I managed 10 kilograms in a month. He said I wasn't trying hard enough. He told me he wanted a break for a year. I should move on, focus on myself, and find someone else. When he found out that I had moved on, about 4 months later, he showed up at my door and asked to talk, where he ran me into the ground. I'd never been more upset before. I really felt like I had done something wrong when I had done everything he had asked. Poster child of narcissistic personality disorder. My ex got angry if we were in the car together and I looked outside the window at scenery. Apparently I was checking out other guys. This also applied to other cars. I was not allowed to look out the window and compare his car to others, as this was seen as a betrayal. In the shopping center / mall I could only look at the floor because, again, I would be accused of checking out guys. There were many other things, but when I got into a new relationship my new boyfriend was surprised when I asked, "Am I allowed to look out the window?" Looking confused he said, "Of course, why wouldn't you?" I then realized how socially conditioned my ex made me, and I'm still trying to undo the damaging behaviors I learned. Most ridiculous demand. Probably that I couldn't go to sleep until she did, because she wanted to talk to me, despite me normally going to sleep before 12, and she was frequently staying up until 3 to 4 am. If I insisted on going to sleep she would get mad. If I then caved in and told her okay I'll talk to you, she would keep on hammering about the fact that I would go to sleep without talking to her. There were many other ridiculous demands and reasons she got angry, but that one stood out. Fortunately an ex now. I was forced to learn how to ride horses. Now to many people, that might sound like a fun opportunity, but honestly I just don't like them at all. Quite literally it was ride or you're dumped, and otherwise she was really quite a nice person in the main. Lesson learned, don't date horsey if you don't like horses. Thanks for watching the video. For more content like this, please subscribe, like, and share the video and push the notification button.